but I really want to talk to school leaders, principals, assistant principals, teacher leaders, those of you who are in positions where you are literally leading a charge, that charge into the new school year. And after 2 decades of doing this work, it bothers me how much fear dictates the moves that we make going into a school year, because we are creating spaces and environments to really pour into our children, into their future. But however, the work that we do is tainted, extremely tainted by the fear of failure, the fear of being admonished for doing something wrong. All those fears, that just happens to go with the work, the anxiety of, are we going to have a bad year? Is this going to be a good year? The long hours. I'm trying to find a better word. At first I was thinking about anxiety, but it's not anxiety. It is fear. My father used to use this acronym. I know it's nothing new. I've heard it over the years, but he liked to use it, and that was fear of being false evidence appearing real. All the things that you believe is going to go wrong that you hold on to from day one, and then the year becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. It becomes a long year. It becomes a year that's filled with stress and I don't want to go to work, and all of a sudden you're using sick days, you need mental health days, and you can't for those vacations because the year is just so taxing on you. And I think everyone across the board in schools experience this, especially if it's not a well-balanced school where the culture of joy and excitement and success and that collaborative pursuit of excellence exists. If you're not in that space, then you're in a space where fear becomes the undercurrent of what you do. So I want to talk to you school leaders, because the thing is with school leaders is, if we are able to manage that space ourselves, then a trickle-down process happens, and it pours into everyone else, into our teachers, our students, our families, and the whole entire community. But if you are buried in that space of fear yourself, then guess what happens? It permeates itself across everyone, and then it just becomes, again, a self-fulfilling prophecy. So I want to share a couple of nuggets with you. I'm going to try to keep this as short as possible. So first thing, understanding fear. A lot of our fears comes from the fact that every year we go into a school year not quite knowing what's going to happen next. I'm talking about the new policies, the new programs, the new mandates, all this new that happens every year. Especially when you work in a big system like New York City, there's always pivots happening. I don't believe there's been a single year over the past 2 decades where every year hasn't opened up with a new initiative, a new pivot, a new program, a new expectation. So what happens is, before you get even comfortable with what we were doing the previous year, the following year there's something brand new. It's rare that you have something that stays the same that you're working on for multiple years. So we know change is one of the catalysts of anxiety, because you're like, I was barely comfortable with this thing over here. Now you want me to do this? And the fact of the matter is, even though you know it's going to happen, it doesn't change the fact that it bubbles up in you, this anxiety and this fear, because now you're like, I'm trying to get great at this, or even baseline effective at doing this, But all of a sudden, I have to do a U-turn or make a huge pivot to the left or to the right, and all of a sudden, I'm like, wait a minute, did I even understand what I was doing before I now have to do this? And that bubbles up fear in you. That performance anxiety becomes like the catalyst for the decisions you make and how you move into this new year. Often, especially when it comes to these policies and these things that are coming up, and you have all these questions and all these things that you're like, wait a minute, and I need help with this. I need understanding. And what do we do a lot of times? We say nothing. We say nothing because we're scared that it may be revealed that we don't know what we're doing. But listen to what I said. It may be revealed we don't know what we're doing, because that's what you believe about yourself. I don't know. I don't want them to believe that I don't know what I'm doing. You do know what you're doing. That's why you're asking questions. Or at least you should know what you're doing. That's why you're asking questions. You know, your level of understanding might not be the same as your colleagues and those around you or those above you who are giving you these mandates. But often we don't ask questions because we don't want to have difficult conversations. You know, and those who tend to push back and ask those questions, we often see them get slapped down, or we see them, you know, punished in some way, or labeled as being stubborn or uncooperative. So we're like, oh, I don't want to be in that same position. And then we move into a school year where we're just kind of like nervous. And the one thing I've learned is, if you ask the question, clarifying questions, then often what happens is you will get the support you want if you ask them in the right way and if you're very clear about what your intentions are when you're asking those questions. So now, I want to give you some tips. New leaders. If you're brand new, I'm talking about new leaders 3 years or under, and maybe sometimes you might be 5 years or under. If you're still in that shaky space where you're like, I'm still figuring a lot of things out, here's some tips for you. Number one, seek mentorship from experienced leaders. Okay, stop living on an island. Stop being like, okay, I'm just going to, you know, hold my breath and hopefully something makes sense. Listen, often there are people right around you in your district. You know, it might be in other districts. It might be in other cities and other, you know, school communities where you can just reach out and say, hey, I've been following you, or I know you've been doing this for a long time. Can I ask you some questions? Can I take you out for some coffee, you know, some breakfast? Or can I just jump on a Zoom call with you? I have some questions. I really need your help. But we're often not doing that because we're so concerned that people are going to assume that we're frauds, you know, or we just don't know what we're doing. Listen, I am the king of reaching out. I will reach out to whoever I need to reach out to for help. Knowing what I don't know is the key to my success. Assuming that I can do everything is, I don't do that to begin with, but it's a guaranteed path to failure because there's no way in the world you know everything. The other key to your success is, rather than be so consumed in your own fear and your own concerns and your own anxiety, spend time to genuinely know your community. Because again, if you're spending so much time with your own fears and your own anxiety and not understanding that fear, those fears and anxieties do also exist within your community, because they're unable to share with you what they're going through and their needs, and you're prioritizing yours over them. You are a school leader. You're supposed to be there to take care of your community, not just yourself. You come last. One of my favorite things I learned in the military is this: leaders eat last. I'm gonna say it again, leaders eat last. You feed your community, you take care of them, you clothe them, you make sure they have everything they need before you're concerned about what you need. You know, and I really believe by doing that, even your questions and your concerns become more targeted towards the need of your school community versus yourself. And then you realize a lot of your fears and your anxieties were nonsense, you know, because it wasn't grounded in your service to your school community. You have people around you who want to be part of the solution. But if you're making this only about yourself, then guess what? You never quite are able to really do the work. I was fortunate enough when I first became a school leader that I had mentors who really emphasized me delegating tasks, understanding my team, making sure that I was utilizing the best skills and abilities of my team members, so that I didn't have to be the one to carry all the burden. A lot of us burn out, and we stay burnt out for years. And a lot of the fear that we go through and anxiety is because we are now in a continuous state of burnout, meaning that every single time we're always asking ourselves, man, am I gonna make it? We say this in the beginning of the year, mid-year, summertime, beginning of the next year, am I gonna make it? Because we're not utilizing our team. We're not building strong teams so you can lead and not just be the leader, the doer, and everything. You can't be on an island by yourself. This is just the guarantee of failure. Okay, when you're on your island by yourself and you just think, I gotta figure this out by myself, you gotta have open lines of communications with your leadership. Okay, whether it's your superintendent, your deputy superintendent, the district support team that you might have, your colleagues, parallel, and it doesn't just have to be within your grade band. I've reached out to principals who were elementary school principals, but they were doing something I thought was very interesting, or they had a perspective I thought was interesting for me as a middle school principal. As a high school principal, I was reaching out to middle school principals because I would see something. I was like, hey, I don't quite understand why this is happening. And I need their perspective because there's a thing within the continuum that I felt that they can help me unpack a better understand so I can be more effective for my incoming freshmen. And sometimes I've reached out to people on college level because I'm like, hey, my 11th and 12th graders are about to come to you. I need understanding because there's something here that I want to get better at for them so that we can better prepare them for you. Okay, this all requires this open lines of communications and not being afraid of not knowing what the answer is. If you had all the answers in the world, then you wouldn't be a principal. You'd be a demigod. Like literally, you'd be like Thanos, snapping your finger, and every kid would get an education. And we know that's not how it works. A couple of things here in closing. There's a power of being proactive in planning and setting clear expectations for yourself. I don't allow the system to set my expectations for myself. I set my expectations for myself, then I take the expectations that's set for the work that I'm supposed to do, and I marry them both. If I'm just saying, okay, what do you want me to do, and that's it, there's no way I can be effective as a leader. I have to have my expectations. What are the highest expectations I have for myself? What are the goals that I have for myself? And then I see the goals that have been set for me, and I say, now, how do I take my high self-expectations and bring this to fruition that I'm being asked to do? Not, this is what I'm asked to do, okay, I've got to figure this out, versus, no, I'm coming in here, with all my tools, all my skills and strategies and my use of experience to go in here and do the work for the benefit of my school community, and here are the things that I'm being asked to do on top of that. All right, that's a lot of talking. You guys, once I start talking, I don't know how to stop. But hopefully, when you scrub through this video, if you watch through the whole thing or parts of it, there are nuggets in there that will be supportive to you. Again, this is Uche Njoku, Sneaker Principal, and I look forward to hearing from you. And I really pray and hope you have a phenomenal school year. And let's go in here this year and do the damn thing. All right, be well. Peace.